All right, welcome to the Explainer. We're going to dive into a really powerful Buddhist story today, all about a poisoned arrow. Now, it's an ancient parable, but it points to a trap that, let's be honest, we all fall into. Getting totally lost in questions when what we really need is to just act.
Okay, so picture this. You've just been shot with a poisoned arrow. Yeah, not a great day. The clock is literally ticking. A doctor runs up, ready to save your life, but you hold up a hand. You stop them. Wait, you say, I have some questions first. Who shot me? Why did they do it? What kind of wood was the bow made from? And hey, what about the feathers on the arrow? Are they from a goose or a hawk?
I mean, the choice seems pretty obvious, right? You'd scream, just get the arrow out. But this story, the parable of the poisoned arrow, is so powerful because it shines a spotlight on something we humans do all the time. We get bogged down in totally irrelevant details, even when the real problem is staring us right in the face.
Now, here's the thing. This wasn't just some clever story the Buddha made up. Nope. It was his actual real-life response to a monk, a guy named Paṭicca, who was basically wrestling with his very own poisoned arrow. So Paṭicca was off on his own, meditating, and he started getting super frustrated. He felt like the Buddha was just dodging all the big, juicy philosophical questions. So he basically marches up to him and lays down an ultimatum. Either you answer my questions or I'm out of here. I'm leaving. So what were these burning questions? What was so important that he was willing to just throw it all away?
Well, it turns out Paṭicca was completely obsessed with what are known as the 10 speculative views. He just had to know, is the universe eternal or not? Is it finite or infinite? Do the self and body, are they the same thing or are they different? And what about after death? Does an enlightened being exist or not exist? Or both? Or neither? You can see how this goes. These are the classic philosophical rabbit holes. They're fun to think about for sure, but they're basically unanswerable. He was demanding a full forensic report on the arrow while the poison was spreading through his body.
And this is where the Buddha's reply is just so brilliant. He basically says, look, whether the universe is eternal or not, it doesn't change the facts on the ground. There is still aging, there is still sickness and death, there is still pain and grief. He just cuts through all the noise and brings it right back to the immediate, tangible problem that's right in front of us. And here's the crucial point. That poison in the arrow, it actually has a name. In Buddhist philosophy, it's called dukkha. And this is a big one. It's not just about, obvious pain or feeling sad. It's a much deeper word that points to the fundamental stress, the background hum of unsatisfactoriness that's just part of life. That's the poison. That's the problem that actually needs solving. The Buddha also made another really sharp point. Part of the problem is our language. It's just not built to handle these huge metaphysical questions. I mean, we use everyday, practical language. I see this, I hear that, which works great for getting around. But it's not a precision instrument for describing ultimate reality. Trying to use it for that, well, it's kind of like trying to perform brain surgery with a butter knife. You just don't have the right tool for the job. Okay, so if overanalyzing the arrow is just a big waste of time, how do you get it out? What's the actual practical first aid kit for all this suffering? And this really gets to the core of the whole thing. The Buddha's teaching isn't some philosophical system that you have to believe in. It's not about blind faith. It's presented as a practical method, something you can actually test for yourself, a set of instructions for pulling out that arrow right here, right now. So here they are, the surgeon's instructions. It's called the Noble Eightfold Path. Think of it as a complete user's manual for living a better life. And it's broken down into 3 main parts. First up is wisdom, which is all about learning to see things as they really are. Then you have ethical conduct, which covers how you act in the world, your speech, your actions. And finally, there's mental discipline. This is where you train your mind with things like mindfulness and concentration. Every single part is a direct action, a concrete step you can take to deal with the poison. And what's the goal? What happens when you finally pull the arrow out? Well, that's what's called Nibbāna. You probably know it as nirvana, but it's not some floaty heavenly place you go to after you die. The most common definition is way more practical. It's simply the cessation, the blowing out of the 3 fires or 3 poisons that fuel all our suffering: passion, aversion, and delusion. It's a state of profound peace that you can actually experience in this life. And this whole focus on what actually works, it even applies to the teachings themselves. They're not meant to be dogma you worship, they're meant to be tools you use. There's another great story for this, the parable of the raft, and it makes the point perfectly. Imagine a guy builds a raft to get across a dangerous river.
He gets to the other side safely. Now what does he do? Does he say, wow, this raft was so helpful, I'm going to haul it around on my back for the rest of my life? Of course not. That would be insane. The teachings are the raft. They are absolutely essential for getting you from the shore of suffering to the shore of freedom. But once you've crossed, you don't need to cling to them anymore. This idea, this radical pragmatism, is spelled out so clearly in a text called the Kalama Sutta. And the advice in there was just revolutionary for its time. The Buddha basically said, hey, don't believe things just because I said them, or because they're in a sacred text, or because it's the tradition. No. He said, test it out for yourself. Put it into practice. Does it actually make you a better, happier person? Does it reduce suffering? Your own direct experience is the ultimate judge. And get this focus on results over dogma was so powerful, it was actually turned into government policy. Way back in the 3rd century BCE, the great Buddhist king Ashoka issued these edicts, these laws, saying that people shouldn't praise their own religion by condemning others. Instead, he said, we should honor the good in all religions. He got it. He understood that any path that actually helps people suffer less is a good thing. I mean, what an incredible statement of tolerance, especially for that time. So what does all this ancient wisdom mean for us, right now, living in the age of Google and endless information? Honestly, the lesson is probably more relevant today than it has ever been. We fall into this trap all the time. We think we need more information. We scroll, we research, we analyze, we get that little dopamine hit from feeling like we're learning something, and we trick ourselves into thinking that's progress. But often all we really need to do is act on the simple things we already know.
So I'll just leave you with this question to think about. Take a look at your own life. What's your poisoned arrow? Where are you stuck in analysis paralysis? Endlessly examining the problem as a way to avoid the simple and maybe scary action of just pulling the arrow out. It is a really powerful question to ask yourself. And just answering it honestly might be the very first step toward finding some real relief.